Welcome to the Broncos podcast with Troy Rank. I'm your host, Troy Rank from the Denver Post. Hope you're having a wonderful week. Football is back, baby. We're only, 48 hours away here on a Friday morning. Broncos v. Titans, heavy favorites. How about this stat to get your morning right with your espresso or coffee or soda, whatever you use to caffeinate? Number one overall pick starting the first game of a season. 4-14-1. 4-14-1. Yes, that bodes well for your Denver Broncos. This is a confident bunch. This is a team that has now become part of the national conversation again. A sexy pick to win the AFC West. A sexy pick to make a deep playoff run. How are the players handling Sean Payton's confidence in them? How are they dealing with this? Because, through the years since Manning retired, handling prosperity has not been a team strength. This is a different group, though. Remind me a little bit of the 2022 Avs. Young players with an edge, business-like, certainly very mindful of the goal involved. So how are they handling that? What is Kurt Warner telling me in my exclusive interview with him that's in my Denver Post column that concerns him about viewing the Broncos as a Super Bowl contender? And Quinn Meinerz, a captain, but what was that like a year ago when he first heard about it? How is he better equipped the second time around to deal with that responsibility? We're going to get to all of it after the break. Have you been hurt in a car wreck or injured at work? What are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggatt Injury Law a call. Their motto with us is personal. I've known Darby Hoggatt forever, became good friends, traveled the country watching sports, talked Broncos. I became his good friend. Many of his clients become his good friend. You don't even have to pay Darby up front. Case goes as planned, Darby will be the one writing checks to you. Again, if you have been hurt in a car wreck or injured at work, give Darby's team a call. He cares. He knows what he's doing. He's passionate about it. Does a great job. 1-833-HOGGATT. See the number on the screen, YouTube folks. 1-833-464-4288. Or go to the website at hoggattlaw.com. Welcome back to the Broncos podcast with Troy Rank. I'm your host, Troy Rank, columnist for the Denver Post. Football's back. We're right there. Broncos v. Titans. Then they go Colts. Then it becomes the tough sledding, the kind of games that can make a difference between a playoff team and a division winner. They got at Chargers, a team that swept them last year, and then home against Monday night against the Bengals, a team they lost against late last year. They lost to both the Chargers and Bengals back-to-back last year, and they get them back-to-back again this year. A little more desirable, though, not a Thursday. This time it's Sunday, Monday, much better than a Thursday setting leading into that Bengals game last year. But this is a different team. The Broncos learned a lot from going 10-7. I said that last year. Whether or not they beat the Bills, which they didn't stand much of a chance, didn't matter. It was getting to that next level, that rung of the ladder, so you can look over that ledge, if you will, and see like, oh, this is what everyone's playing for. This is why it matters. And you start feeling like, we're not that far away. And the players sensed that it made them hungrier. There was not one sense of satisfaction. And so when you got to this season, confidence grew. Why did it grow? Well, they had clear needs to address. They need more offensive weapons. So what do? They get J.K. Dobbins and more specifically tight end Evan Ingram. Defensively, one of the best defenses in the league adds hard-hitting safety Talanoa Hufanga and linebacker Dre Greenlaw. And there's concerns about Greenlaw. I'm not 100% sure at this point he's going to play this week. If he does, he's clearly going to be on a play count. And that might be 20 snaps, that might be 30, or they might just say, you know what? We'll wait a week, wait 2 weeks. They really need him for the Chargers game. Ideally, he'd play against the Colts, and that way he and Singleton have played together in a game before you face the Chargers. You'd hate to see that as their first game together, but his status is in doubt. We'll see where it goes as we get into the weekend, but he hasn't practiced much in the better part of the last 2-3 weeks, working on side fields. If he doesn't get involved in team activities, it would not surprise me if he doesn't play this week, and then you get him ramped up to go at least about half a game against the Colts. But anyway, regardless of whether he plays or not. They address needs. In doing so, and also because of how Sean Payton believes he matches up against the Chiefs, Payton has not done this the shy way, folks. He has really put it down how much he believes in this team. He's made it clear to any national writer that put a microphone or camera in his face that he believes this team's capable of winning a Super Bowl. He clearly stopped short of saying they're going to win a Super Bowl. He's not going to say that. No coach really would in the NFL. But said this is like the 8th team he's had as a head coach that he felt was capable of winning the Super Bowl at this time of year. And again, what does that mean? And how is that played in the locker room? So you see that headline, what coach said. I asked Payton to revisit it. Now that camp is over, you're in week 1. I asked Coach Payton on Wednesday, you're not shy about it. You're not shy about it. How is this team, how are these players handling it? Why that messaging? How are these players handling it? And then we hear from those players. Bo Nix and Pat Surtain, both among the 8 captains that were announced this week. How do they like it when their coach is out there saying, hey, we can win the West. We can get to a Super Bowl. How are they reacting to it? So let's hear my question to Sean Payton earlier in the week. And then from there, Bo Nix and Pat Surtain reacting to Payton and his confidence in the team. When you believe in the team, Coach, you don't do it the shy way. You let it be known. You express confidence.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it was the shy way. It was just.
No, you're never like that. When you believe, it's puffed out about it.
Yeah, my chest isn't puffed out. I just think this team is further along than when it was 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, quite honestly, we weren't near where we are now. And so this game, in the very beginning, I said, look, our goals obviously start with winning the division, best seed possible, play for a Super Bowl. And I think that's where your mind's got to be if you plan on winning one of those. You don't just arrive week 8 and say, man, we're on a roll, we might win this thing.
I think they've handled it now that camp's over and we're into week 1. The idea that
I think it's their expectations as well. The expectations to compete. All right. Obviously, Kansas City is the team that sat on top of this division, and they're awfully good, and they've been very consistent.
Sean said this team was capable of winning the Super Bowl early in the summer. You said you like that. That's why you played. How much do you guys take from that belief, his confidence in you, and how do you think you guys are handling it now that people are very aware of the Broncos again?
Well, it's really important to have a coach that believes in his team. And so when a coach believes that, it instills confidence in the team, throughout the team. And so we're excited. We're excited to kick it off. We know that we got a lot to do. All of it is just words thus far, but we're excited to put the pads on and go and compete against another opponent. And just show that what we're capable of doing and learning and growing along the way.
A lot of confidence when you hear that, from your head man. So, when we go in and we understand the philosophy, he tried to teach us in towards of how to win games. We go over situations each and every day. It's sort of like the little things that he honed in on. And we realize that the little things is what wins games. So at the end of the day, it's always good to sharpen our toolbox, sharpen our mental to make sure that we do the little things right. And it's always good to have them, very confident in our team.
Welcome back to the Broncos pod. I hope that gives you a good idea of why, when you change the culture and you clearly set expectations, this is like that next run of it. As Payton said to me in his answer, you can't get to week 8, 9, and then go, oh, wow, we could be in the Super Bowl. You have to believe that. But to believe that, you can't be delusional. You have to have a process in place. You have to have the players, a system, attention to detail. Like, all of that stuff matters. It's throwing pennies in a jar when you look up and say, man, here we are. We're one of the final 8 teams. We're one of the final 4 teams. None of that happens by accident in the NFL. Obviously, you have to have a quarterback, which the Broncos do. But none of it happens by accident. It is part of a process and how you draft, how you identify players, then how you make the roster fit. But the culture created and bravado created with the coach that wants all the smoke, that's part of it. That is definitely part of it. And we've seen that with Payton. Now that we're into the season, he's not going to be, pounding his chest, if you will. He said that it's not with his chest out, but it has been with his chest out. The quotes, it has. He believes it. He wants his players to believe it, and they do. When I was in the locker room earlier this week, they embraced this idea. And listen, it creates that idea, like you don't want to let somebody down. If they believe I can do this, why can't I? Why shouldn't I? So these things all kind of tie together, and this team is now entering a Super Bowl window. I think it's a year early to have those kind of expectations. Frankly, I think that would be a year ahead of schedule. They're in a much better position than they were 2 years ago. I mean, that's laughable how bad they were when Hackett couldn't make it through one season. But I think they're a year away from being that team that you look up and say, man, they get right here or there. Like they could, be in a Super Bowl. Part of it's the AFC with Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. I mean, there's challenges in the conference that even as good as you feel, are you better than those teams? You can be for one day. That's why the season, though, matters to get yourself in position to play home games in late January. Makes it a hell of a lot easier. But the Broncos are embracing this. They're embracing the idea that they're relevant again. They're part of the conversation. And I like all of that. But with that comes the pressure. You've created the expectation, coach. You've framed the season. Now can your players go basically give you the money to cash that check? Because you've put it out there. You're not hiding from it. I love that. Love everything about it. But now you got to go do it. Can they? Can they go do it? We'll see. But there are concerns. One specific Hall of Fame quarterback is really concerned that they're not good enough in one area, one facet of the game. We'll get to that after a quick break. Listen, when you face curveballs from family challenges, divorce, legal separation, child support, alimony, custody, you need a lawyer who understands human dynamics, the courtroom, and is willing to fight for your rights. You need Ted Shih. Graduate of the Cal Berkeley Law School, Ted brings 40 years of courtroom experience and 20 years of family law to your corner. Ted has been a social worker, a police detective, but first and foremost, he's been a trial lawyer. He has tried cases across the country and the state. He's taught young lawyers the ins and outs of the courtroom for the National Institute of Trial Advocacy. Martindale Hubbell ranks Ted among the top lawyers in the country. You want an expert to navigate your family challenge? Call Ted. He has a passion for putting you first. Ted will work to settle your case. If not, he will not be afraid to go toe-to-toe in a trial. Ted can be reached at theoshih@aol.com, TheoShih@AOL.com, or more convenient perhaps, call 303-475-2981. That's 303-475-2981. Ted promises to respond to your concerns within 24 hours, 365 days a year. Well, listen. As much as we're all filled with hope, there is a solitary truth to this season. After all the espressos, after all the slogans, after all the bravado, the solitary truth is this. The Broncos are not a Super Bowl contender yet. Not yet. On this, Kurt Warner and I, the Hall of Fame quarterback, agree. Kurt is an analyst for NFL Network. He calls Monday Night Football games for Westwood One as their lead analyst. He's around the game. He's been in media since, I believe, 2010, if memory serves. Obviously, he's played in multiple Super Bowls, winning one with the Rams, losing one with the Cardinals. So he's got a great experience in this area on what it looks like and what it needs to look like. And here's his thing, and I don't have the sound from it, but I'm going to give you an idea of what he said, and you can go to my column that posted on Wednesday at denverpost.com/sports. Go to the columnist section or the Broncos tab, and Kurt Warner weighing in on the Broncos. But his concern is this. He likes Bo Nix, and we'll get to that more later. He likes Sean Payton. He likes everything about what this Broncos organization has done over the last 2 years. What doesn't he like? Where are the weapons offensively? Do they have enough around Bo Nix to be an elite team? And that's his concern. As when I talked to Kurt about it, he was on a team with Torrey Holt and Marshall Faulk, and, multiple guys that are candidates for the Hall of Fame. In Arizona, he had Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden. Where is that second go-to guy for the Broncos offense? And the way he put it to me is, listen, they need to be able to run when they have to, run when they need to, but definitely when they have to. So they have to either have a better running game or another go-to guy in the passing game besides Courtland Sutton. And he loves Courtland Sutton. Crossing routes, ability to win 50-50 balls, all that. But at some point, folks, we got to be real here. The way Bo Nix leaned on and trusted only Courtland Sutton is not a great strategy for a full season this year, when eventually teams are just going to double him, take him out of the game in a way that, that you see that great defenses can do, or even, medium, mid defenses will say, hey, somebody else is going to beat us because we're not going to let Sutton on crossing routes on third down continue the drives and extend drives. So maybe that's Troy Franklin. Maybe that's Marvin Mims Jr. Perhaps it's Pat Bryant. But more specifically, it needs to be Evan Ingram. And here's why I say that. When we look at the run game, there are questions on how the line is adapting to the outside zone. Chris Morgan, as Meinerz talked about on Wednesday, is a great teacher of the outside zone. I think he taught it with the Falcons. He's well-versed in it. But we haven't seen it look right yet. Now, a month in, this might be an entirely different conversation, and I'm sitting here telling you, man, I haven't seen him run the ball like this since, the days of Alex Gibbs and Schlereth and Nalen and Zimmerman and that crew. We haven't seen it. We haven't seen it yet. And so, in absence, acknowledging the mystery of what is R.J. Harvey, acknowledging the mystery of J.K. Dobbins, because we don't know what it's going to look like. He didn't get a carry in the preseason. Yeah, he had some good practices, but they don't tackle in practice. I can't tell you what it's going to look like. What I can tell you is Evan Ingram is proven. A couple years ago, he had one of the greatest seasons ever by a tight end. He is the guy that needs to be the second target. On that, Kurt Warner and I agree. He looks at him, says he's long, he's athletic, he's a mismatch. He's the guy that can help Bo win in the middle of the field. That is the guy they would need. He believes they need a second go-to guy. I agree. Because they were 1-6 in one-score games last year. I think they were, 2-7 against teams that had a winning record or went to the playoffs. One of those wins was against the Chiefs, who weren't playing their starters. You look at their schedule, there's probably 8 wins right now on their schedule. Teams they should beat. Starting with the Titans, Colts, Raiders twice, Jets, Giants. I mean, there's some very winnable games that you have to pack away. But the season's going to be determined. The 2 games against the Chargers, the 2 games against the Chiefs, the game at Washington, the game against the Packers. Those are the kind of games that decide whether you go to the playoffs or whether you win a division, whether you win 9 or 10 games or whether you win 11 or 12. They're not going to do that, especially on the road, with their offense consisting of Bo Nix, Courtland Sutton, Bo Nix, Courtland Sutton. You get the idea. They can't do it. Drew Brees was talking earlier on a podcast with Kevin Clark from ESPN about how Sean Payton makes the offense as complicated as you need it to be. And the more you can handle, the more he'll give you. And the reality is, Bo Nix, when he watches it, he can carry and digest a lot of it. But Brees said in this interview clip that I saw, their offense was at their best when they had flex tight ends and Jimmy Graham and and Jeremy Shockey, and even to some degree Benjamin Watson. That flex tight end that's plaid on stripes, complete mismatch, harder to cover than the Rockies beat. Sorry, Patrick. That's the guy that makes a difference. In an ideal world, they do both much better. They run the ball better, and the tight ends win it in the middle of the field, and Bo Nix has options, and he's got play action, and he's got bootlegs. But Warner likes the team. He likes the Broncos, and he's going to do some of their games this year. But I believe him. I concur completely that as much hope as there is Broncos country for this team, there should be. You've earned that right to have some positive vibes for this team. But when you start talking about being in the Final 8, Final 4, you got to do more than one thing good consistently, more than our quarterback's accurate and he runs around on third down. Like, that's college. That's not going to sustain you in a second year with Bo with, film on him. He needs better weapons. So cross your fingers that Evan Ingram's the guy. I believe in him. I'm less confident in Dobbins and Harvey until I see more, because they haven't done it. They haven't really done it in this scheme with the Broncos. Ingram's done it. He's that guy. They absolutely 100% need him to be a guy that you go, oh, now I get it. Now I get it. Because right now, Greenlaw, I brought it up. I'm not sure Greenlaw plays this week. Talanoa Hufanga voted a captain coming over. It just speaks to his work ethic and just how he's assimilated with his teammates. He's going to have an impact. But, folks, for them to be special, we already know the defense is going to be good. They're going to be good. Even if they have to wait on Greenlaw, even if they have to wait on other players to get their rhythm, they're going to be good defensively, and they should be great. I don't know if they can be number one ranked if they don't have Greenlaw, but they're going to be a top 5 defense even without him. Offensively, to get to where Sean Payton's used to, 26, 27 points a game, they have got to get Ingram going. Kurt Warner's right. I trust his opinion. Go read the column at denverpost.com/sports. And we'll finish with this. Quinn Meinerz is such a story from Wisconsin Whitewater, Division III. You all go back in time during the COVID issues. He's up in Canada, Paul Bunyan, training, lifting logs. I mean, this guy is, salt of the earth. Just mowing over D3 competitions, goes to the Senior Bowl, breaks his hand or thumb, I can't remember exactly. He switches to guard. He's mauling in practice. George Payton's there, identifies him as not only, because he was, borderline invite there. He identifies him clearly as a pro prospect, drafts him in the 3rd round. Meinerz is now, if you ask most football people, their 2nd best player behind Surtain. Obviously, Zach Allen's right there, Benito, depending on how you value positions. But from an all-pro type stature, it goes Surtain, it goes Meinerz. Well, Meinerz is an interesting guy. If you ever talk to him, he's so bright, intellectual. He never really saw this as part of his life. I mean, you're playing high school football in the Division III. You're not saying, I'm going to be an all-pro in the NFL. Like, he's not like that. He's very introspective, into astronomy, music. Like, he's got a unique way of seeing life, and he's very humble in that way. And then you see him on the field, and the guy's an absolute mauler. But this time last year, he got voted team captain. And remember, he's the only guy from the line, a line that includes the longest tenured Bronco, Garrett Bowles. It includes Mike McGlinchey. And he's the guy representing that. He's the guy setting the tone and representing the whole group, because they have a saying in that offensive line. We set the tone of practice. We set the rhythm of practice. It goes through us. So that's a huge responsibility. And man, did Meinerz feel that last year. When he got voted captain, when he got his new contract, he was a mess for the first month. So I want you to hear what Quinn said and comparing like what was going on in his mind last year when he learned that he was a captain, and it's coming on the heels of him getting this huge contract with guaranteed money, how that affected him both on and off the field, and what's different now.
Yeah, I have a better understanding of what it means, what I need to do. I feel more confident in myself, who I am. And like I said before, that being who I am is enough. And that's who my teammates want me to be, is just to be me.
Does that carry over on the field too? Because I think you said you were maybe pressing a little bit earlier in the season with the contract.
Yeah, no, I was in mental turmoil at the beginning of last year with captain, crazy contract. I was, battling a lot of things mentally regarding that, but I've kind of figured it out, worked through it. Found advice from some of the veterans in our room, and just kind of finding my own path. That's kind of been the biggest thing for me, is finding my own path, because a lot of people haven't gone through the entire path that I've gone to get to this point. So figuring out what works for me, I found out what has worked for me, and I feel like I'm in a way better spot than I was a year ago at this point.
How special is that when you've got Lindsey, who's been around forever, Garrett's been around forever, Ben Power's been around, and you're voted the captain is essentially the representative of the O-line?
Yeah, I mean, the entire O-line is essentially a captain of this team. When Coach Strief got here, he made that abundantly clear that like everything goes through us. We handle the tempo of practice. We handle if someone's not doing the right thing. So yeah, I get to wear the C on my chest, but I'm not the only leader out there. Mike's a leader. Ben's a leader. Garrett's also a leader. You know, Luke's a little quiet, but you know he's been around here for a while now, and so the whole line really is a captain of this team, and we can only go as far as us.
Well, his hair isn't the only thing different, right? No more dreads. He just understands, like, his best is good enough. Quinn being Quinn is good enough. And sometimes that's hard as a young player because you get a little bit of that imposter syndrome of, man, do I really belong here? Am I really that guy? Am I a leader of these men? You know, like you sometimes you struggle with that, and he's not the most outgoing guy. He's not a rah-rah guy. So you're like, how do I live up to these expectations? And then the natural tendencies try to do too much. When you try to do too much, you get off your assignment. Then it's just like in basketball, you take two guys and then the other guy gets free. You got to let the game come to you. Trust your ability. Be confident in who you are. And it's so clear listening to him today from a year ago that no hesitation. I know who I am. It's good enough. My teammates know who I am. I set an example with the way I work and get after it. That's all I need to do. Be Quinn. And that is definitely enough for this offensive line. And when you think of the Broncos and reasons why they're in this position, it's because of players like Quinn Meinerz, because of players like Pat Surtain. And obviously all of this was accelerated by the drafting of Bo Nix, stability in that position. Last thing, I want to leave you a quick note. I would encourage you, if you can, read my column on Glenn Kadrez. If that name sounds familiar, it should. He was on the 97-98 Broncos back-to-back Super Bowl champions, inside linebacker, key member of special teams, and then 1 year started, I believe it was 15 games at inside backer. Glenn, about 8-9 days ago, he's in Temecula, California, a couple exits away from his home. His son had a Pop Warner football game. They had pizza after the game. He's driving in the middle lane, which is important to this, and a car, he sees dust, and then a car like lights flying through the median, hits a car 2 seconds in front of him head on. Oh, I-15 in the interstate, smashes into that car. The cars are burst, kind of into flames, engulfed in flames. Anyway, Kadrez saves a person. Unfortunately, 4 people died in the accident, including the driver of the car that was hit. He saved the driver of the car who was, believed to be allegedly responsible for the accident. But kudos to Glenn for the way he acted. He had told me that his kids were his motivation, that he had hoped somebody would do the same thing for his own children if they were in that position. And I'd like to think we all would, but good for Glenn, good for what he did. Cap tip to Kadrez for being there and being the one willing to literally run into the fire. So check that out if you want to see an interesting story from a former Bronco that hopefully he said will be at a game later this year at one of the alumni events. So again, Broncos v. Titans. I fully expect them to get after Cam Ward. I told you the stat of 4-14-1 of top picks first game. I expect that to be 4-15-1. My prediction is Broncos 28-10. I will be shocked if they don't steamroll them because Cam Ward's going to learn the AFC is not the ACC. Broncos country, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate all your support. This pod would not be possible without Darby Hoggatt of Hoggatt Injury Law, Ted Shih's Family Law Practice, and of course, my man, Nate Lundy of Mile High Sports. Broncos country, I do this pod for you. Happiness, that begins with me. Go out there and have a great day.